Hello, and welcome to Be My Own Boss podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hruby, and this is episode 54 How Lies Become Law. And we're on a very interesting journey here. Episode 54 started out as the fifth in a series of major flaws in labor law. We've been following it for this last 4 out of 5 episodes. And the subject was going to be salting, which is, in independent contractor world, the idea of someone going to a prospective customer claiming they're an independent contractor and asking for and accepting project work on a short-term basis. Then going back and turning in the employer to the labor department and saying under the guise that, no, I'm actually an employee and I wanted to be treated as such. Now, as we prepared that, we realized, there are other lies that are going on at the same time with the same kind of effect on independent contractors. So I started to list them. Well, we're up to 10 major classes of lies that are perpetrated on independent contractors and on the public and on all of our economies on a regular basis. Some of them have lasted for generations. And we thought, we can't do this in a 15, 20-minute episode. I can't drag you guys through it. So, okay, we have 10 examples. Let's just do 3. The kinds of things we are talking about in the future are, for instance, legislators faking that they're representing their constituents when they're just doing nothing but waving the pro-union policy flag. Or maybe union-paid nonprofits that regularly create fabricated studies, slanted results, and untrue facts and dish them out to the public, the media, especially to governing legislators and to top officials in the states and the federal government. So we're uncovering something much larger than salting, although salting is enough of an insult to have an episode by itself. So today, I'd like to take you through what we call the 3 first classes that have come to our mind as we've prepared this material for you. The class 1 is, as we mentioned, is salting. It's individuals who impersonate an independent contractor. I find that extremely just insulting, with the specific intent or getting paid to trick the employer into engaging them on a contract basis, as you and I work on short-term contracts, short-term projects, and then with the intention of reporting them. This is fraud. It's entrapment. If we did something like this, we would be put in the slammer or fined heavily. It's perjury if we make false testimony, but for the for instance, in a legal hearing in the Department of Labor, but this goes unreported when it's pro-labor. In the case of a company called Dynamex, which has become a famous name in the labor law, this happened to a company in California who was approached by a guy. He took a job, took a project job, and 15 days later turned in his employer to the State Department of Labor, along apparently with 2 later signers to his affidavits. He made statements and then he disappeared. And nonetheless, the case wound through California regulators and the legal system, and a very union-friendly judge said, oh, this is terrible that people are being treated this way. I'm going to propose a test, and I'm going to call it the ABC test. And I, although it wasn't said at the time, copied word for word the Massachusetts law from 2004, word for word, the ABC test that has caused so much development, so much devilry here in Massachusetts and made life very difficult. This ABC solution was the basis for the legislature claiming they had to follow the judge's statements, dictum, decision. Not true. Legislators don't have to follow anything. Of course, you'd like it if they followed some of the good taste, good management, and ethical principles. Separate discussion. So we've got it eventually became law, put 1 million people out of business as independent contractors, made 700,000 people move out of California to find a better place to self-employ themselves, and became famous for 100 exemptions that still didn't solve the problem. So the trickery of salting is present. It's a threat. Anyone could play this game with a prospective employer. And the way the ABC test works, almost none of the employers will get off safely. The law is written, and it's still being rewritten in other states to be so hard to pass that no realistic project, short-term project, no matter how legitimate, is going to be able to pass it and not harm the employer. The second class, class 2, just numerically, is legal professionals, and I'm talking mostly attorneys, impersonating impartial authorities. This is fraud. We have a clear case in Washington where Jennifer Abruzzo became the head of the NLRB after working there many years, and then going during Trump administration number 45, she went to the Communication Workers of America, where she was special counsel. And what she apparently did was spend her time pulling together a lifetime of notes of tricks she could play on employers and slants she could put on the law. And then when Biden was announced to be president, she was immediately appointed back to the NLRB as its general counsel. The general counsel runs the NLRB. And this is the National Labor Relations Board. It's a very powerful, standard-setting, quasi-judicial agency in Washington, pretty much separate from the rest, but it's sort of stuck into the org charts in the U.S. Department of Labor. All these regulators and their investigators and their in-house judges all have ties to labor unions, at least in the blue states, for sure in the blue states, and in many of the red states too, and in all of the federal hierarchy in the Labor Department. They don't punish deceit if it helps the unions, and they ignore deceit if it hurts them, hurts their case. So that's the second class, legal professionals who are impersonating an authority, and it is just, I'm sorry, I lose my cool doing it. They're lawyers. They're an officer of the court. They know better. Class 3, even more powerful individuals, are elected state attorneys general and their staffers. They are impersonating disinterested authorities when they have anything but a disinterest in the case. When you run for office, in order to serve, you have to swear an oath that you're going to protect the public, you're going to serve them and not yourself, you're going to avoid conflicts of interest, and you're basically going to run it as if the newspapers could publish what you do every day and everyone would be happy. They may not like the results, but they accept the fact that you're doing your job. Attorneys general get to choose cases. They get to pick their defendants. Selective regulation on steroids. They get to choose the nature of the crime that they charge so-called perps with, and the levels of punishment, and they get to propose punishments in settlements and to courts, and to impose them on people who in some cases are definitely not guilty, as most of the clients of independent contractors would testify. Massachusetts has the perfect example of this in, I believe her name is Andrea Campbell still, and she's the one who concluded the case of the $175 million fine against Uber and Lyft, which has now descended into controversies in other areas, like getting the money from the companies and getting it to the right recipients. But in any case, here you've got someone who swore to protect the whole state, and what she's thinking about is her past histories with the unions, campaign contributions, fame and notoriety. Anything you do as a state attorney general is going to get a headline. You're going to get interviews. You're going to be in the news. It is a fabulous step to higher office, which is of course the governor or lieutenant governor in a state. Massachusetts, most attorneys general, state attorneys general, run for higher office, which would be the governor. And the attorney generals who have this slant, who have all this union background, see attorney general service as a way to help their friends and get future contributions and future campaign support. So this is a racket. And we've just scratched the surface with these three. I don't know what you see, but what I see looks a whole lot like a conveyor belt, bringing in lies and deceits and misrepresentation and mischaracterization and phony standards and slanted, almost everything is slanted against the buyer without mentioning the seller. So it's partial even in the damage it does. By slanted, I mean crooked. And it's really important for all of us to understand that our work, our income, our occupation itself, our families, and our financial and mental future are all at risk from this attack by lies and the laws that they breed. I hope this is helpful. I hope it's informative. I hope you like this episode and can click like, as they say, mash the like button on YouTube. Follow the Be My Own Boss channel. Subscribe to get alerts. And thanks for watching. We will see you next episode when we will pick up here on the next classes of these misdeeds and the lies that lead to labor laws. Thank you very much.